All right, let's talk about what the search landscape looks like for a local search. So here I've done a search for newspapers in Bend, Oregon, where I'm from, and the one thing that's kind of unusual about this set of results is usually you're going to see that map with what they call the 3-pack right at the top of the page. In this case, the Bend Bulletin is pretty much the dominant newspaper in town, and Google, probably because of click patterns, knows that. And so Google has made a little exception that they don't usually do, and is showing that result at the very top ahead of the 3-pack. That's not usual. What you will see ahead of the 3-pack a lot of times is up to 4 ads. And sometimes what you'll see in the 3-pack is actually a 4-pack, and with a very subtle little indication that the first result in that 4-pack is a paid ad or sponsored or something like that. So you as a local business can buy placement in that 3-pack, just like you'd buy regular Google ads. But it's not nearly as common as the ads that show up top. Let's say you're working with an SEO company, and the SEO company is all proud that, hey, you're bensource.com, and we've got the #1 ranking on this page, forgetting about the one at the very top of the page there. Let's assume the one at the top of the page there was an ad. The #1 ranking is nearly off the screen because the 3-pack and ads occupy all that space up top. And sometimes for some kinds of searches, you also see like a people also ask block, or a featured snippet where there's an answer to the question in a little box at the top. You might see maybe some images or shopping results or whatever. And so that #1 organic result that all SEO people get excited about might not even be on the page without scrolling. What determines whether we get that 3-pack on the page at all? Because if you search for a news story, you'll probably not get the 3-pack. Versus you search for newspapers near me, you're going to get the 3-pack. Google is not looking at the words near me. Google is not looking at whether you typed Bend, Oregon, and things like that. What Google is looking at is the click history. So if the last 10 times or 100 times or 1,000 times Google saw somebody search for a Thai restaurant, people clicked on a local result or a map result, and people did not click on a national directory, Google's going to go, okay, that must be a local intent kind of search. We're going to show the 3-pack. So how do you get in that 3-pack? Well, nothing in the 3-pack is possible unless you have a Google My Business listing. So what Google's going to put there is going to be selected from Google My Business listings for whatever area Google thinks that person's searching for. If a person searches for near me, Google's going to look at the IP address of the person searching, whether they get it from a phone or a desktop IP address, whatever. And we go, okay, this guy's in the north end of Bend, Oregon. Let's find businesses from the Google My Business set of listings that are near the north end of Bend, Oregon, that somehow match those terms. So you've got to have a verified Google My Business listing. You go to business.google.com to register it if you haven't already. Verified basically is Google will, when you first create that listing, Google will send a postcard to the address you say you're at to make sure you're really there. And then it'll have a little code on it. You go back in and enter the code. That gets you verified. Google My Business used to be called Google Places, and then Google Places for Business. I think it might have had a couple more names. Google seems to try to rename every product about every 3 or 4 years just to confuse us. So it's all the same thing. Google Places and Google My Business is the same thing. So how do you get in that 3-pack and rank well, especially with something competitive? Well, there's a few key areas that Google looks at. The first thing they care about is consistency in the name, address, and phone number. And you'll hear people refer to that as the NAP, name, address, phone. And the reason they care about that is, imagine you're a restaurant and you found your restaurant 5 years ago at location 1, and you're doing really well, and you need to expand, and you move to a new location. And you remember to update your website, of course, and you remember to update your Facebook because you spent a lot of time on it, and you get a lot of traffic from Yelp, so you remember to update Yelp, and you forgot to update Google My Business. Google wants to be able to spot that and go, okay, we're not showing this listing for your restaurant because we're getting these signals that maybe you're not there anymore. Or let's say the phone number for your business in Yelp and Facebook and your website ends in 1234, and the phone number in Google My Business is 1423, just because you made a typo. Google's looking for those indications that there's either a typo or you've moved or whatever, that they might not have the right information. And that's basically a deal killer for them. They don't want to show anything that's going to embarrass them, where you click to call the phone number and you get the dry cleaners instead of the newspaper, or you click for driving directions and you show up and you're at the dry cleaners, not the newspaper, that sort of stuff. So it's important that the name and address and phone number matches letter for letter these other places Google's going to look at, which be probably Facebook, Foursquare, City Search, Yelp, a handful of other directories. So that's kind of like table stakes. If you don't have that matching, you don't have really much of a chance of showing up in the 3-pack, no matter what else you do. So get that cleaned up. Moz Local is a good way to do that. They'll show you where they find your business name and your address everywhere, and they'll flag any ones where you said Suite ABC in one and Unit ABC in the other, or whatever happens to be. And then you can go and get those fixed up. So let's presume you've got all that cleared up, and everywhere it's got the exact same business name, address, and phone number. Then the next thing Google's going to care about is links to your website, and specifically links to the page that Google My Business links to. For a newspaper, this is probably not much of a concern, because you're probably going to you probably have one main address. If you were a restaurant chain with 5 locations in 3 cities, you might think, oh, well, my Google My Business listings for the Madison, Wisconsin one should point to my Madison, Wisconsin page, and the one for Chicago should point to the Chicago page. That used to be a best practice, but what seems to be happening today is the links to the page that Google My Business links to is what affects ranking, not links to your website overall. And so those little location pages probably don't have any links compared to your homepage. They're not going to help you rank as well as if your Google My Business listing was pointing at your homepage instead. So links to your website, and specifically to the page that you're showing in Google My Business, is a big factor for ranking. And the stronger those sites are that link to you, the better. The number and sentiment of reviews in Google matters. By sentiment, I mean average rating. There's some people that talk about, maybe Google is looking at the words people are using in the reviews to gauge sentiment. I don't think so. I think that the scale of having to do that is so vast in terms of amount of data to go through and calculate. When they have review scores anyway, Google seems to be looking at the review scores and how many reviews you have as indications whether you're a good candidate for that placement search results. It's not a be all and end all. It's not as important as the links to your website, however. The other thing that might be a factor, and I haven't seen any studies that were able to really prove this conclusively or not, is user engagement, meaning when you show in the 3-pack, do people tend to click on you? So let's say you show up in the 3-pack and you had 17 reviews with an average of 1.5 stars. That's not real good, right? You're probably not going to get a lot of clicks. So Google might be looking at, okay, we showed you in the 3-pack 25 times. On average, we would expect you to get 8 clicks and you got 2. That's bad, we're dropping you. They might be doing that. I'm not sure that they are. And the reason why is the reviews would tie to that and correlate that really strongly. So if you're not getting a lot of clicks, it's probably because you have terrible reviews. So why would Google have to measure the clicks as well as measure the reviews? So that's a maybe.